Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today we need to talk about this Carey Price and Seattle Kraken situation. Now we've learned so much over these past couple of days regarding the potential link of Carey Price and the Seattle Kraken, but we got some new news today that made that whole situation just so much more interesting. So what is the latest rumors, what is the latest news on the Seattle Kraken, the potential Carey Price pick, and the question in everybody's mind, will the Seattle Kraken actually take Carey Price? Well, that question, that answer just got a lot more interesting today. So, of course, if you want to hear the answer, if you want to hear all the latest rumors, make sure you stick around for the rest of the video and subscribe if you're new. 60% of the people watching are not subscribed, and we make daily hockey content on the draft, on the Habs, on hockey every single day, and we'd love to have you. If you like hockey, this is the place to be. Now, throughout this whole process of Carey Price waiving his no-move clause, the thought was always that Seattle would never just take that contract on, pick him in the expansion draft, and that would be it. The thought was always there might be another trade in the works if Seattle picked him, or they would just flat out decline the offer and take a guy like Drouin or take a guy like Brett Kulak from the Montreal Canadiens. But everything we've heard since those expansion draft lists were reveals that Seattle might have just other plans, and actually there is a potential where they just actually take the contract and have Carey Price on their team. Now, we'll get through the reports, we'll get through the rumors and the confirmations by various insiders, but there's a lot going on with this Montreal Canadiens situation, and again, Seattle might just end up picking him outright with a $10.5 million cap hit and have him as the franchise face and the leader of the Seattle Kraken for the next 5 years. And of course, with Carey Price exposed in the expansion draft, there's always the possibility that Montreal trades something in exchange for Seattle to pick somebody else on Montreal and for the Habs to keep Carey Price's services. But that is far from the least of what we can talk about here with Carey Price, because there's so much news to go over, not just of course with the availability, but also the asking price for Seattle, what Seattle wants, and if they would go for Carey Price just outright with the full contract, and also the injury news and the injury potential with Carey Price is getting sorted out as we speak. Now, this was reported by Pierre LeBrun, which I thought was super interesting. He notes that Carey Price is scheduled to see a doctor in New York regarding a knee issue which could potentially lead to surgery. That'll be checked up, of course, by the Seattle Kraken, by the Montreal Canadiens, and I would suppose that that would be done before the expansion draft, most likely. But that's another wrench to put into the full situation. And another situation as well reported by Frank Saravelli is that there's apparently another issue as well with his health. The hip with Carey Price could also be a factor. Frank Saravelli reporting that the hip could maybe lead him out for at least a little bit of the season, if not that knee issue. So it's not just a knee surgery potentially, but also a hip injury that could result in him getting missed games in the start of the 2022 season. So with Seattle, there's a lot to juggle there with the health by itself, not even just the contract, not even just the player by itself, but the health is a big concern right now of Carey Price and could be the main factor that drives away the Seattle Kraken in the first place. But as Pierre LeBrun also reports, Frank Saravelli, of course, with the hip injury news, but Pierre LeBrun says that the surgery and the big complication is his knee. So it might not be the hip that's the big problem, it'll be that knee that'll be sorted out and checked out before Seattle even thinks about taking him. So that is another factor to note in this whole thing, that if there is going to be surgery, it would be on that knee, which for a goaltender and how much movement you have with your legs isn't exactly the greatest news. But when it comes to Seattle, there is so much more to talk about with this pick, and if it does come back clear, let's say Carey Price is good to go, no surgery required, he would be back maybe at the start of next season. Let's say everything goes right there and it all goes to plan, which probably won't happen, but let's say it does. The Seattle Kraken and the ownership and the management, I'm going to say it right now, Carey Price is healthy for next season, will probably end up picking Carey Price in this year's expansion draft. And here is why. Now, one of the big reasons I think Carey Price will get selected if everything is good, if everything is healthy, even with that $10.5 million cap hit, is because of the ownership and the management really wanting a face of that franchise. I talked about that a little bit in the mock draft, how I think they'll want to get some recognized players to market there in the Seattle area. I think Carey Price could be one of those guys. And according to Frank Saravelli here, a very, very interesting note on Carey Price's situation, he says this: This story continues to evolve and percolate. I'm told as the Seattle Kraken continue to investigate Carey Price's injuries, ownership has given hockey operations the full green light to select Price if Francis sees fit. Health concerns and all. There is zero doubt they're considering it. So there is a lot to talk about with that tweet. The first thing I want to really pin down is that middle part where he says, ownership has given hockey operations the full green light to select Price if Francis sees fit. Health concerns and all. So it might not even be a situation where Price is maybe injured for the first month and Seattle's like, oh, we can't do this. Even with potential health complications, Seattle still wants to end up taking him, and the ownership gives the management the full green light, which indicates to me that ownership badly wants a name like Carey Price. They badly want to sell a boatload of jerseys, which they obviously should go after, and Carey Price will be the main man to do that. I mean, he grew up in British Columbia. He's around that area, will be a great spokesperson for Seattle hockey, and I think ownership is looking at that situation, knowing how much money they could potentially make, and even though the cap hit would be crazy at 10.5, you get a face you can market, and that is so important for a new franchise. Vegas had guys like Marc-Andre Fleury that they could market in year one, and Seattle desperately wants a face like that. Carey Price would be the guy, and again, even with health complications, he could still be the pick. All the cap hit and all of that cap going to Seattle. And that health complications not really being a factor for the Seattle Kraken too much, I think is so important. Let's say that Carey Price doesn't need surgery. Let's say he's completely good to rehab, go back in the next season and be almost as good as new. Still would have some complications, but let's say no surgery is required. I think the Seattle Kraken are taking Carey Price. All that contract and everything. And obviously, now the tweet also indicates that Ron Francis would have to see it fit for the pick to actually come true. But again, the full green light to select Carey Price, that to me doesn't mean nothing. That to me means that Seattle's ownership badly wants this to happen. And when it comes to Seattle, you could have Carey Price and not really have too many other big cap hits. I mean, just think about this. They wouldn't need to take on contracts like JVR or Vladimir Tarasenko, and they could just leave those guys and get other guys instead that are cheaper and younger and still be under the cap. So even in that situation, they could actually change their philosophy, go a different route, select Carey Price, have him be the face of the franchise, and create a better underrated team below him, like the Montreal Canadiens did. So that's a very interesting aspect to me personally, because I think when people are thinking that Carey Price, when he's going to Seattle, that it would automatically not work, there is a lot that could work under Carey Price, and especially with the defensive options they have, they can build a pretty competent defense above him, and I think it could actually work, especially in the first couple of seasons. After that, once he gets a lot older, that'll be a big question, but Carey Price would make the team money, and for a team like that, really to start out, that's what you want to see. Carey Price would be the main face of the franchise, and it would be a huge shift into what we actually think the Seattle Kraken could be. And again, if the Seattle Kraken do take Carey Price, the team will look a lot different, I think, than what a lot of people are expecting. If they take Carey Price, they're not going to select guys like Tarasenko or James Van Riemsdyk, or even maybe even not a guy like Mark Giordano, perhaps. They'll have a lot more younger options, and they could even be better for it. Let's say Carey Price is healthy for next season, and he translates even a bit of that playoff performance into that regular season. Let's say he has like a 9, 15, 20 save percentage. Seattle is a playoff team in that horrible Pacific Division, and they could build a really strong team around Carey Price. And if they just make the playoffs, they just have to make the playoffs just like Montreal did, and Carey Price can turn into an absolute god. That to me might just be what Seattle does. They might want to replicate that Montreal Canadiens formula and at least go for that type of success in year one. I think it's huge what Montreal does here, what Seattle does here, because it really changes the trajectory of the actual franchise. If Carey Price is selected, they're going to 100% try to go win now. They might even trade that second overall pick, who knows, in a Jack Eichel trade, let's say. But it would mean that they're not rebuilding, they're not retooling, and I don't think they would either way, but they would be going hard for that Stanley Cup in year 1, year 2, year 3 for Carey Price. It would mean a fundamental shift in what we're thinking the Seattle Kraken can be. And I think that is really, really exciting. Not great for the Montreal Canadiens, losing Carey Price on top of Philip No and probably Drouin and probably Tatar this offseason. Not exactly what you want to see, but if you're Seattle and you start out Carey Price, that marketability, that money factor means so much, and he could be the best player on the team perhaps come playoff time where it really matters most. And again, in that terrible Pacific Division, Seattle has a strong chance, even with an average Carey Price in the regular season, of making the playoffs. That team could be really scary, and honestly, at this point, for the full chaos factor, I'm hoping Seattle does it. It would be absolutely crazy, but at this point, it's making more and more sense. But once again, the problem for Seattle is just the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, looking at what Montreal Canadiens would lose in Carey Price, it would be astronomical. Not even just the play that Carey Price brings, but the leadership and what he means to the Montreal Canadiens franchise. I think, personally, the Montreal Canadiens could end up offering a ton to keep Carey Price away from the Seattle Kraken. And hey, for Seattle, if you're going to get an extra first-round pick or something to not take on Carey Price, that's not exactly the worst thing in the world, and you could take a guy like Chris Driedger instead. You'd have a lot less marketability, but hey, an extra first-round pick is an extra first-round pick, so we'll see what happens on expansion draft day, but there's a lot of potential for Mark Bergevin and Ron Francis to get creative together, and I think whatever happens will be a lot of complicated processes, but I do think for Seattle and for Montreal, I think most likely Carey Price will stay a Montreal Canadian. I'm going to say that right now, but the possibility of the Seattle Kraken taking Carey Price is 100% there right now, and it is a real possibility we see Carey Price in the Seattle Kraken jersey in year 1. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for more news and rumor videos just like this one, and hockey videos all the time, every single day. And of course, make sure you comment down below. What are your thoughts on this whole crazy, wacky situation? What do you think will happen with Carey Price? Do you think he'll stay in Montreal? Do you think he'll go to the Seattle Kraken? Let me know your thoughts, and make sure you click this card for all of my hockey trade rumor content right on my playlist. Share the video with your friends. Get the Carey Price speculation out there, boys. And that'll be it for me today. Hope you have a great day, a great night, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.